for true.
Welcome to Duality Check, the podcast where two brothers embark on a journey through the realms of scientific inquiry, the mysteries of the past, and the uncharted frontiers of spirituality. Join us as we explore the wonders of our world and beyond, all while embracing the roles of curious bystanders rather than experts. Together we'll unravel the tapestry of existence, blending the dichotomies of knowledge and wonder. Get ready to question, ponder, and delve into the dualities that shape our understanding of reality on Duality Check. I'm Drew.
And I'm Dean, and welcome to episode number 69.
69?
Nice.
This is definitely our first take. No mistakes.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, just some technical things. We got it all sorted out now, but
Some headphone issues.
Yeah.
So this week, I think our main topic is going to be about the new Jesse Michels episode about Harald Malmgren.
The whistleblower who claims to have handled UFO material.
Yes.
Right.
So this is one of the few, firsthand in a sense, because he actually touched some stuff, but he still...
He didn't produce anything for us for anybody else to verify.
Yeah, but he had a lot of really valuable stuff to say that I thought was super intriguing. So I'm looking forward to getting into all that with you.
We got a message here from Greg.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, I got it here on YouTube queued up.
Oh,
and
cool.
Then did Amy send us anything this week? Except for the fact that our website was having problems for something.
Dude, I thought I had it all settled. And
yeah.
I think I do now, but I want to knock on wood.
Yeah. It's all right. But yeah, she was able to watch it on YouTube.
She did send us a photo of her dog after last week's episode. And like,
That's
this is my little wolf.
Yeah.
Which is super cute.
Yeah. Jade.
Yeah.
She's awesome. So we got a couple messages, and then we got some clips and stuff. We can start off with the one I got from Shi Heng Yi.
Well, what did Greg say? Let's.
You want to read this first? Okay, yeah.
Let's do that.
So Greg says, this is 5 days ago, so sorry, Greg, we didn't get to it sooner, but also we haven't recorded since then, so.
Yeah.
Hello, brothers from another mother. Been listening to your program and have some thoughts. So I'm highly skeptical regarding the hypothesis that this alleged alien technology must be so easy to produce that it's kept secret all these years. I mean, the reason for secrecy is that it's very simple to obtain. No, sir, I don't buy it. Here's why. As humankind, we accomplished so many incredible things, so many mind-blowing inventions, machines, devices, laws of nature, etc., etc. Some were very simple. Lots of them we came upon by accident or just pure luck. And a lot of them were incredibly, incredibly hard to do. Almost impossible.
I would add that a lot of them are sort of products of their time too, right? Like certain things, like the time is just right for them.
Yeah. All the conditions are like perfectly set.
Yeah, well, like you could make the argument, like for instance, the invention of calculus. It was done by two different people, roughly at the same time, and it was probably came as an outgrowth to the problems that were facing math and physics at the time. Right.
So
because there's a need for something, all of a sudden multiple people might be focusing their brain power on solving that issue, and sometimes it's just time for an idea.
Yeah. And if you believe that ideas are just living creatures floating through the universe, we just tune in and grab them up. Maybe multiple people can get one at the same time.
Yeah, I don't know about but more like
where there's some sort of
morphic resonance kind of idea.
Yeah. I mean, same idea, but yeah, different way of it coming about.
Sure.
And then he says, for example, like the moon landing, something that seems impossible, it's incredibly hard to do. So if this alleged technology would be easy, we'd have it a long time ago. Someone at this point would come up with it and it would spread like a wildfire. Or even perhaps several people would find out what it is on a few different continents as it has happened in the past with some discoveries. So nope, I don't buy it. In my opinion, this is something really, really hard, something that we don't even fathom basic principles of, perhaps something that our current understanding of the world is in direct contradiction to these principles and says it's impossible. That's why we didn't find it yet. My personal thought on the matter are that this alleged shadow government who supposedly keep these craft, in fact, don't have anything, not a single craft. And they also in the dark are also in the dark on what sort of technology it is. From what we can observe, the UFO phenomenon seem to be not quite material objects at all. Jacques Vallée says about it, and many others says something similar to that, and many others. So I'm highly skeptical that anyone is in possession of crashed crafts and such.
That's interesting.
So he's kind of going with the idea that these aren't actual physical things. It's more of a manifestation or some sort of
like if they're
spiritual or
the tools of spiritual entities, maybe they aren't naturally physical objects, and
maybe they live in the minds of the believers,
or that they just it's hard to explain when you do have like actual physical phenomena in certain, like in the body of UFO history, right? Like you have burns on fields, flattening marks from like landing gear. You have people with injuries and radiation burns.
Right.
You have people who've claimed to actually have material. You have like the Chris Bledsoes who say that, remember when Tim Taylor, in his book, Tim Taylor from NASA came over and gave him this, stone or whatever, this rock, he described it and how it made him have a feeling. There's something similar, and we'll get to that with Harald Malmgren. So I don't know. I find it, while I do think that probably a lot of the abduction experiences may not necessarily be physical.
Right.
They could be
just manipulations of their
like quote abductions of their like astral
mind,
form or their
their dream state,
their spirit
non-physical
body
beings,
or their soul or whatever you want to call it.
But there are some instances and cases where they go physically missing. Is it that they're bringing them to a place where their physical body still stays, and there's no but it may be some sort of like
people showing up in random places after abductions.
Exactly.
The missing time.
Like clearly they've gone missing because there's plenty of people saying like they were missing for weeks or days or hours at least, in a lot of cases.
Which leads me to lean. My natural inclination is that it's like everything else in the world and that you can't peg it all down to one simplistic explanation, right? So there probably are physical crafts, or they have the ability to become physical, and there probably are non-physical crafts and entities, and I think there are physical and non-physical experiences with them as well, and I think there's probably multiple species, and I think some of them might rightly be described as extraterrestrial, while some might rightly be described as angelic or demonic or spiritual. Some might be time travelers or multidimensional. It's hard to say, but it seems like the reason we fail at trying to fit everything into a box is because it doesn't all fit into the same neat box, and that's kind of my vibe on it anyway, my opinion.
But it still is worth careful study and public, like whatever we are studying about these, because clearly that we have some interest in these things, and as a government and as a people, there's a lot of interest, and I think we need to get rid of all the stigma around it and let the researchers go and
Oh, and I can't fail to mention, I think
Not be
some
dot.
of it is actually reversed engineered stuff. So that goes in contrast to what you're saying there, Greg. But I think there seems to be a pretty, not clear, but there's a lot of hints of a history of not necessarily all reverse engineering, but like starting with the Nazis and the Die Glockenspiel and the T. Townsend Browns and the Teslas and the
Warner von Brauns and the people that were.
There definitely seem to be people who have been messing with these types of effects in the past. So yeah,
And
But,
he finishes.
yeah. Oh yeah, what else is that?
He finishes saying, due to recent death of the Pope Francis, I guess you'll mention it too. I'm sure you already seen a lot of the memes and wild hypotheses regarding his successor and associated prophecy. Will it be Peter the Roman? Well, we'll see. Anyways, take care of yourselves and stay in peace and good health. G.
Thanks, G.
Appreciate it, G.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've seen some of the theories about the successor of Pope Francis because I haven't done any vetting of this, and I would like to, because there are some theories that have been thrown out since even before his death too. I've seen these, like, people talking about the fact that on the basilica, the paintings of where the Pope go, there's only one after this Pope. So once this Pope dies, there's only be one, and there's this like prophecy that is because that Pope brings about, or during that Pope's reign, there will be be brought about like the Armageddon.
Interesting. Yeah,
and it puts it at 2027 2027 because it says like 3,000 years after, or something, some like 300 years, I don't know, after a certain Pope dies, there will be like the end times. That will be the last Pope.
I mean, that kind of all lines up with all these like UFO prophecies and stuff.
And even like Chris Bledsoe's like 2026.
That's what I mean.
And all these things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really follow. I haven't really followed much of the Pope stuff. I did get sent from Joel. He sent me a video of the Pope, like the day before he died, or the day, like, you know,
The weeks leading up or days.
I think it was like the day before or something. But he was like being taken into this area in the Vatican, and I don't know, it was weird. He was like, why does this one guy have no ears? And I was like, what are you talking about? And I watched the video, and I didn't see it at first, but then like from the view, like inside the room where he's going into, there's a person in there like opening the door, and that person
appears
like,
to not have ears.
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe it's just the lighting. And then he said also, like, why does the Pope look scared? And then I was like, I don't know. I don't know him. I don't know what his facial expressions are normally like, but I could see how you could read it that way.
Like a worry.
Yeah. So I saw a bunch of people like commenting all about that type of stuff, but no, I haven't really followed much of it. So
I've seen that, at least a theory on this stuff, but I did hear about the successor being the last one in the prophecy. I don't know about the Peter the Roman. I didn't know that was the person. It was.
Yeah, Greg, if you have any good
send us some links to that. For
yeah,
sure, I would love to go on a little rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Learn about this stuff a little bit more.
Thanks for writing in. Appreciate it.
All right, and
then you want to do this Shi Heng Yi?
Yeah.
All right. You see my screen now?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
One of the worst things that could ever happen is that you one time just wake up, are old already, look back at your lifetime, and then you start regretting that you didn't do something with your life. This is really something that I don't want to be in. One of the worst.
Yeah.
was a quick one.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to go into a little bit more, but
Yeah, more
he
in-depth breakdown.
Yeah, but he basically just says, yeah, regret's bad.
For sure. Regret
Yeah,
is bad.
that is
And no one, I think that's a pretty common fear that a lot of people have, is like being in that place in their life, in their old age.
Yeah, feeling like there's things you could have done.
Right. And so I think the only solution to that is to, live your life by what you think you can do, like if your passions or your inspiration takes you down a path, like pursue it instead of, sitting there wondering whether or not you could.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and then it goes both ways too, right? Like if you're only go and you're, you feel like there's a draw to something else. There's ways to just follow what it is that's calling to you. Whatever that
you
may
don't want to run away from like your friends and your family and yourself either.
Or creating that for yourself if you feel like,
Yeah. There can be regret for not spending enough time with the people who
working
matter.
too hard and chasing the thing after the money and but yeah, following your passions, whatever that may be for you.
Totally.
Tell us about it.
All right, so you sent me these posts from the Brothers of the Serpent.
Are all over the Middle East right now.
Yeah.
And they made their way to the Phrygian in the Phrygian Valley in Turkey. And they are going to visit these cart ruts. So there's just a series of images here.
It says here, visited the cart ruts in the Phrygian Valley in Turkey. There are hundreds of well-preserved ruts in the volcanic tuff scattered throughout the valley. We visited several different groups. Some of them are very deep. Several sets cut so deeply through the surrounding stone that there is scraping on the walls to the sides of the ruts.
So insane.
Possibly from the passage of the axles of the vehicles. Also, some got drone footage and some LiDAR scans. We will be adding those to this thread after we get home. I also want to see if I can use maps now that I have some confirmed spots to figure out the full extent of the ruts and if they have a clear origin/destination. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, so we can go flip through a couple of these.
These are really, dang.
Look how wide they get.
Yeah.
And so that's a Apple AirPod case for reference.
Idea of the size. Yeah, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
That's got to be, what, 8 inches to a foot deep?
Yeah, probably like 8 inches wide, 6 to 8 inches wide. Can't tell about the shadow there, but.
Yeah.
But it looks like these cars were moving through as this ground was cooling.
Yeah.
It's either that or like, obviously the theory is that it's just over time it wears down. But if you click on the next link after we go through some of these, you see the aerial view of it, and it just seems kind of chaotic and scattered.
Yeah.
That it almost seems like there was some sort of volcanic activity, and then the cars were trying to escape or move through it on the edges. That's what it seems to me once we go through it a bit.
Yeah, like driving over stone that's not fully solidified.
Yeah, and you imagine like a bunch of carts from like a town nearby trying to escape, and they're all going different directions trying to just get the hell out of there. You know? Look
at this one. This is some of the scraping he's talking about.
Yeah. That maybe not, because if you're that deep in like hot rock, that would be pretty devastating.
There's the AirPods over there.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even see that the first time I looked. But yeah, the scraping is crazy. Like they just pulled through.
Huh.
It's like a perfect bevel on the edges there.
That one's super deep, yeah. Are the AirPods here? I don't see them.
I don't think. There's some people for reference, and that's that's a couple feet up their thigh there.
Yeah.
Up to their knees. On the left side, it's like probably waist high, neck high for some people.
Uh-huh. This little girl just sitting in it.
Yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, so click on the other link in that Yeah, so this is the aerial view, and you'll kind of see like there's some sweeping motions, but there's like a lot of crossovers and.
But it seems to be like there's a definite direction.
Sure,
you know?
sure, yeah. And there's like different, like maybe there's like water puddling on one side, so you take a different route. So there's like pretty clear cutouts from both sides.
Huh.
Or there's some reason to avoid one area or the other. Because otherwise you would just use the path.
Right.
You know, if it's like there's nothing there to like for the need. Because I don't know how far or long these go. But if it's just really this area, had to have been something going on.
This says some short drone clips of the groups in Phrygian Valley, Ruts in Turkey. We walked around in this area for several hours. The ruts are everywhere. They're only visible in the parts of the volcanic tuff stone that protrudes above the soil. Would be interesting to find out if they continue beneath the soil cover. Yeah, that would be interesting.
Oh, that would be very interesting. Yeah, because you can see out there, that could be a bunch out there.
Right.
Underneath the dirt and shrubbery.
So that would be a good use of
some LiDAR or something.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right. And then I brought this one. It's an interesting tweet I found. It says, bombshell memo claims JFK probed CIA to release UFO files 10 days before his assassination. So it says, memorandum for the director blank Central Intelligence Agency. Subject, classification review of all UFO intelligence files affecting national security. As I've discussed with you previously, I have initiated blank and have instructed James Webb to develop a program with the Soviet Union in joint space and lunar exploration. It would be very helpful if you would have the high threat cases reviewed with the purpose of identification and bona fide, as opposed to classified CIA and USAF sources. It is important that we make a clear distinction between the knowns and unknowns in the event of the Soviets, or in the event the Soviets try to mistake our extended cooperation as a cover for intelligence gathering of their defense and space programs. When this data has been sorted out, I would like you to arrange a program of data sharing with NASA where unknowns are a factor. This would help NASA, what does that say? Something...
Mission directors.
Mission directors, yeah, in their defensive responsibilities. I would like an interim report on the data review no later than February 1st, 1964. John F. Kennedy. And this is dated November 12th, 1963.
So whoever the director of the CIA was at the time.
Yeah. I've heard people talk about this, but this is the actual memo. And I've heard people say that it's got questionable provenance.
Well, I mean, there's other sources too that talked about his interests.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this was the one that a lot of them were referencing, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. That is interesting. I mean, I still, even with all these, like, we'll see if somebody can make sense of all these documents, but the real evidence is not going to be in these files. If there was ever any kind of nefarious or otherwise, bad looking for the government, it's just not going to be in the public stuff.
Yeah.
Not until we...
But this goes to show that he was aware and investigating the UFO problem.
Well, and it makes sense too, because he's trying to put together a space program, and that's like, side by side with the Russians at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to like push all these things that are like space stuff, and he's probably caught wind of all these events, if not seen or had an experience himself of like UFO events.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yo, tell me everything we need to know. We're starting this program. NASA needs to know if there's unknowns out there that we need to account for. Plus, we need to make sure that Russia knows that we know what is real and fake basically.
Well, what's ours and what's not.
What's known and known and unknown, yeah.
Right.
Whether
they need to know that the unknowns are not us coming flying over their airspace, possibly bombing them, right?
Exactly. And that was like part of what Malmgren was talking about too, and like a lot of the talks that he was a part of is asking questions and probing and like sitting in these meetings with all these high officials, like, and they're like, if I, and that whole I don't know what it was a part of, but it was some sort of like interview or meeting or something where they played a clip. Jesse played the clip of him saying, asking the question, like, if the United States, or if we ever were attacked by some sort of alien entity, would your country help us? And they're like, of course.
Right.
Because there's some sort of like understanding that would be necessary if it was real and we were actually being attacked.
Right. Well, and then you have like Danny Sheehan and Harald Malmgren talking about how like Kennedy was trying to make peace with the Russians.
Yeah.
And he was actually trying to downsize our nuclear arsenal,
right, as well as other countries,
and work with them on a joint space program. And anyway, I thought it was pretty interesting. I also found this
is crazy.
A close-up of one of the UFO mystery drones that have been filmed over New Jersey in the latest flap. This is no plane or drone, according to this person, but it does look like a drone.
It kind of looks
like a drone
actually.
To me. Yeah, it does kind of look like both.
It looks like one of those recon drones that we've seen that company makes. Remember when we looked at their website?
Yeah.
It kind of looks like some sort of like specialized, like outfitted drone that they can launch. It's unmanned. It has a massive battery pack underneath it.
Yeah.
And it's got the lights that it needs for clearances.
Yeah.
And for safety.
Definitely FAA type lights.
And it's got, but what's interesting is this front panel here.
This curved
so next
bottom?
to the bright,
or up here.
right there is this like array of lights and
looks
sensors.
Like a sensor array, yeah.
Some sort of light, a camera and sensor array at the front, which is interesting. And I feel like we should still know about these things, especially if they're flying over sensitive parts of our country. Even if it is us, like being like, yeah, that's us. Chill. Like, why have we not even gotten that?
Yeah.
If it's truly not something else.
But the wing shape is really weird. This triangular wings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't seem like a normal aircraft.
But it could be. Yeah. No, it's definitely some sort of specialized, like. But they have these drones too where you launch it high enough, like they can launch them and then they glide. They just glide. There's no moving parts.
Well, if you're going to glide, I imagine you'd have big wings.
Unless they figured out they're using T. Townsend Brown's freaking technology.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they would need lots of energy still.
Cool stuff. All right, cool. Well, let's take our first break, and then we'll hop back in and we'll dive into some of this Harald Malmgren stuff. I don't know how much. I don't know if this will get us through a full 2 hours or not, but we'll go through it and
see where we're at.
See where it takes us. So the song I wanted to share today for this first break is actually by my friend's daughter.
Is that right?
Yeah. So my friend has a daughter who was born with a deformity on her right hand, and she basically is missing her right hand. She just kind of has some like fingers coming out of her arm where like a hand would be.
Right about her wrist.
Yeah, and she's part of this program. He's done such a good job raising her to like not see it as this like big tragic thing. She embraces it. And she's part of this summer camp called Camp No Limits, spelled no Limbits, which is cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So a bunch of kids who have similar situations all go to this camp and get to play and learn to do all sorts of cool stuff together. So she made a song as like a theme song for the camp.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he helped produce it, and I helped produce it a little bit, and then help mix it. So I thought it was really cool and sweet and endearing, and I just thought it was a cool thing and thought it'd be a fun thing to share. So this is, and I'll share you guys the YouTube video. Look at her.
That's awesome.
Her rapper name here is Lil Stump.
I love it.
And the song is called Limbitless. So here you go. Enjoy.
Going up to camp, yo, we're back again. Smiles on face, so the games begin. New friends, old friends, stories to share. You gotta live different, we're here to care. Whether it's fresh and we're running free, basketball switch, just watch and see. Having fun and laughing and we're dancing too. There ain't no limit to what we can do. Can't stop, no, it won't stop. We're limitless, yeah, we're limitless. Watch us shine, we were made for this. I got no limits, I got no limits. Safe place, strong place, family tight. Cheering on each other, we shine so bright. It ain't just fun, we're learning too. New ways to move, new skills to use. From prosthetics to running with ease. Confidence soaring, just like the breeze. Hand in hand, side by side. Lifting up each other with limitless pride. Can't stop, no, it won't stop. We're limitless, yeah, we're limitless. Watch us shine, we were made for this. I got no limits, I got no limits. Can't stop, no, it won't stop. We're limitless, yeah, we're limitless. Watch us shine, we were made for this. I got no limits, I got no
Welcome.
Back.
They welcomed us into our welcome back.
Yeah. Thanks for welcoming us.
Yeah, I like
Lil
that.
Stump.
So they like gave that to the camp as like a, or did they record it? And
We
like,
just finished it
Yeah.
like within this last week, and they just posted it. So I don't know that she's given it to the camp yet, because I think she goes over the summer.
okay. So soon.
Yeah.
So they
But
made it.
she
in
wanted to have
preparation.
it. Yeah, she wanted to have it in preparation for
Yeah.
this like next year.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah, they're gonna love it.
yeah,
That's cool.
thought it'd be cool. I hope she
Thanks
has
for
a,
sharing that.
I
That's
hope she has
awesome.
a concert there.
That'd
with
be
the
cool,
kids. That'd
yeah.
be super cool.
Yeah, some kind of like it's like camp rock.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so I brought up while we were out there, and I didn't want to go any further because I feel like this would be good podcast talk. But I asked you if you'd been keeping up with the telepathy tapes.
And which my answer was no, but I want to keep doing that because I've watched like 2 or 3 of the talk tracks, but they're like on like 6 or 7 now. Huh?
Yeah. Number 8 just dropped of the talk tracks, and number 7 is the one I wanted to talk about because
Okay.
I just listened to it today. And it's about animal communication.
Yeah, they talked about that in episode 2 too.
Was it
Talk
episode
track-
2? Yeah.
Talk tracks, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they
Yeah.
talked about it in the actual podcast proper, I think, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think they did bring it up.
Anyway, this one was a whole interview with a person who specializes in animal communication. And what was her name? This is her website here. It's called animalspirit.org. Anna Breitenbach.
Close enough.
Yeah. So anyway, it was a really cool episode, and she tells a lot of really like cool and pretty moving stories about communications with animals and what she's learned.
Yeah.
And even some like little ones too, like she's like a bee trapped in her house and stuff. To like elephants, to
Having
like,
communication with them.
yeah, to like she says you can even like communicate with like collectives. So like she's done it with like gardens, and like she will feel all the different species that make up that little microbiome, like giving her impressions of like what they need and stuff, or what they would want.
Right.
And yeah, I thought her view was really interesting. She seems to be sort of a panpsychist as far as her interpretation of what all this means.
Consciousness and things.
Yeah. But yeah, and then at the end of it, she recommended this other website, which is called animaltalk.net by
Animaltalk.net.
Penelope Smith, who is, she called her the founder, basically like the godmother of animal communication.
Animaltalk.net.
Yeah. And she's got some interviews on here. She's got some courses, books. So she seems to be able to, like, I thought it was interesting because essentially she believes that essentially we just have to learn to like quiet our mind and shut down the like constant thoughts flying and empty ourselves. And if we can do that and like connect with the animal in front of us or anyone, she thinks that, she just thinks this is how life communicates.
Right. It's more natural than it sounds.
Right.
It's more of a natural feature.
And that we sort of
Block
set
it out.
ourselves up in a mental and physical landscape that sort of makes it hard to connect.
What if the singularity had already happened and it was our communication and like the way communication, like the path communication took, like got us to a place where we like almost instantaneously, whatever piece was the breaker of it all, that like switched our minds to communicating in a different way, where it just like at that moment it blocked us off from all of these things that we were maybe privy to before, like all these like psi abilities that we maybe were like are vestigial in our minds. They're like relics from a previous, ancestor time.
It makes me wonder, like, what are the biggest contributors to people not being able to do this?
Yeah.
Like, how much of it is your worldview? How much of it is your diet? How much of it is your ability to be proficient at meditation and quieting your mind? How much of it is
A willingness to open yourself up to it and
Right.
realistically, like, deep down, right?
right?
Yeah.
But I found it fascinating. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch all these. I love these telepathy tapes. Yeah, and I just listened to an ad of her talking about how they're like blowing up now, like since the Joe Rogan and like all the press that they got from the outreach of this. Like
getting a ton
they're doing
of attention.
the talk
Yeah.
tapes, they're doing the documentary, they're working on a season 2 of the actual podcast. And then those are going to become documentaries at some point. That is her ultimate goal.
She's working on a documentary.
And I guarantee the money's probably coming in now. She's probably getting sponsors, and now she's doing ads on on the videos.
She said her two biggest goals are to fund a documentary so that she can get even further outreach to people who the podcast, world doesn't reach to, right? People who can only be reached through like visual media, right?
Yeah.
And people who may only accept it through that form, right? So that's her first goal. And her second goal, she said, was to create like a sort of outreach center, like a center for the non-speakers to help them learn spelling and help them, do like wholesome and not like, like not turn these people into lab rats, but like to explore the nature of these telepathic connections.
Yeah, basically do tests, but in an environment that's loving and caring and and probably not like overnighters, like a place where like centrally. I mean, maybe some overnighters, but like people come from all over the country to like meet other people who have these abilities and in person.
But they could build a real data set and use that as a launching pad to really change our collective consciousness about these things.
Yeah.
And then I think if we really open ourselves up to the reality of communication through, connecting of minds, that basically that's like the first step down the road of fixing everything that's wrong with this world,
Yeah. Telepathy will be an interesting thing if it ever becomes like widely known in practice.
It will change the nature of our civilization.
Absolutely.
A lot of
quickly too.
The social rules and whatnot
will go out the window.
Yeah.
And have to be new things written, new things like understood.
Right.
Yeah. Or the ability to like block out, like they go to this place called the Hill and they have like a protected area that they go to. Maybe there's something similar that anybody can create if you're tapping into this, world. Maybe maybe this is the contact with the gods that was talking, because like they talk about this entity of some sort that it's like watching over the hill to keep it safe. Like they talk about the spirit of it.
Well, imagine too if like this is essentially our prerequisite for being able to
ascend, in a sense.
To talk to the gods, right? Like the quote unquote gods, right? The spirits, whatever. If they're going to talk to us, maybe to a certain extent they can like use English, audible English, right? But that's probably not the best way to take in the message, right? Or to communicate. We know of all the sorts of problems that our verbal communication creates, right?
Yeah.
So if part of the prerequisite is that a certain amount of people are accepting of these nonverbal communication forms, then that would
be a paradigm shift.
Could be the thing that opens us up to. I mean, imagine a world where UFOs experiences are happening, but people already have an understanding of telepathy.
Oh, and they're just like receiving like the intention and like the.
So yeah. Imagine you're not taken aback by the fact that this thing is talking to you through your mind. You're like, oh, okay. Well,
hey, how's it going?
I know how to do this.
Yeah.
So it could change the nature.
At first, there'll be a lot of like translation errors where they're like, look at this dumb human. He doesn't even know how telepathy yet. And you're like, yeah, I speak telepathy, dude.
Which makes me think of like when we covered the Lacerda files and how she was saying, there's levels to this stuff basically where like, there's the ability to communicate, but there's the ability to like put pictures in people's heads and like mind control and like protecting your mind and like
and how humans were like very unprotected at a basic level, like generally
that we're basically just open for anyone to come in and influence us
and manipulate.
So, yeah, it could be a real groundbreaking event. One may even call it an apocalypse.
Yeah.
Right?
And maybe a new form of our species comes out, and it's the telepathic, non-speakers.
And I think, I've heard it said before, like the meaning of the word apocalypse. I think it has something to do with like the revealing or the unveiling. Like it's not actually
the truth or something. Like
the etymology of the word doesn't actually mean like the end of the world. It just gets interpreted that way by people.
Well, because it's probably like if it's maybe it's just like revealing of the truth of something so shattering that it's like brings about massive change. So it could be an Armageddon, could be like the Industrial Revolution, like that could be like because there was tons of things lost and destroyed and killed and throughout the process of like shaping the West and industrial revolution sweeping the country and stuff. Like there's a whole dying and rebirth in that,
Right.
Dying of old ways and bringing about of a new civilization. And then, look at us 150 years later, 200 years later.
Mm-hmm. With bigger craniums and smaller bodies starting to look more and more like the Greys.
Yeah. So, I mean, things are open.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, highly recommend that episode 7 of the talk tracks of the
I'm going to watch it, and you all should watch it. Telepathy tapes on
episode
YouTube.
8
go check them out.
Of the talk tracks I just started, and it's an interview with a bit like this woman who is trained in nuclear physics, and she's an engineer, and she heard the telepathy tapes and set out to disprove them. And it's basically her story of like open-minded skepticism and like the impact it has on her. And I still don't even know like what her ending point is, but I imagine they're including it because maybe she's come around,
or just because you can
be skeptical in an honest and open way without just
pooping
all over everything. Yeah,
exactly. Like if there's open discussion and honest, like search for the truth, then like there should be all points of view had. I think that's only healthy.
Right.
But yeah, telepathy tapes, can't recommend it enough.
All right, so let's hop into this Jesse Michels episode. So this is the first tweet I wanted to cover, which also includes his 6-minute intro to it's like a 4-hour interview that he has with Harald Malmgren, and I cannot recommend it enough if you're into these topics.
Yeah,
but it's a lot.
One way through it and half back through it again. I'm kind of jumping around to the sections and re-listening to certain areas again.
So I wanted to give you guys this sort of introduction to it from Jesse Michels himself. Says, former presidential advisor reveals he directly handled UFO material. A 27-year-old Harald Malmgren literally saved the world from nuclear catastrophe during the Cuban Missile Crisis when Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara and President JFK asked him to buy some time for diplomacy by facing off against the General Curtis bombs away LeMay. Malmgren, the youngest of the whiz kids sent on to become a professional or a presidential advisor, not just to JFK, but to LBJ, to Nixon, and Ford. He had a personal relationship with Putin and advised every Japanese prime minister since Tanaka in the 70s. Giscard d'Estaing, Pompidou, and others. He was assigned to contain Kissinger and worked closely with Howard Baker, George Shultz, Volcker, and Mondale. Not to mention Nobel Prize winners Tom Schelling, Sir John Hicks. Unusually, he had all the so-called Q clearances. His credentials are unimpeachable. So it should make everyone question the reality when this man, at the end of his life and before tragically passing, felt compelled to pass on what he learned to humanity. Earth-shattering revelations. He claimed these things in a 4-hour interview. Number 1, He held UFO or UAP material directly. This material came out of a plume of nuclear tests called Bluegill Triple Prime conducted at Johnston Atoll in the Marshall Islands in 1962. So this is one of those nuclear weapons tests that were where they were doing them
underwater.
No, they were doing them up in the atmosphere.
Oh, that was one of these. Okay.
Yeah, and they were doing them in the Marshall Islands. It was handed to him by Lawrence Preston Geiss, director of Albuquerque branch of the Atomic Energy Commission, who happens to be Jeff Bezos' grandfather. Number 2, the deputy director of plans for the CIA and the man who built and designed Area 51, Richard Bissell, briefed Malmgren on other world technologies. This includes past crash retrievals like the Magenta crash in Lombardy, Italy in 1933, along with broader awareness of UFO appearances around the tip of the spear technology development at sensitive Department of Energy sites across the country. Yeah, so basically this Malmgren got briefed on UFOs by Richard Bissell, and Richard Bissell being the one who
founded and like designed Area 51 as a top secret area.
Yep. Number 3, that a member of foreign intelligence sent Harald information on a secret anti-gravity related collaboration between Tesla and Thomas Townsend Brown.
Damn, that would be crazy if we got that technology like back then.
Number 4, he told his daughter Pippa off air in his final hours that there had been UFO crash survivors, biologics, and he had shown a video of the sole surviving extraterrestrial being, or he was shown a video of the sole surviving extraterrestrial being from one such crash, Roswell. So he told his daughter he saw the actual entities from Roswell.
Yeah, he was shown the video,
right,
of the sole surviving extraterrestrial, but by somebody I'm assuming he trusts.
Probably by Bissell or someone.
Somebody high up, somebody within the program,
Malmgren says point blank that he believes JFK knew about UFOs long before becoming president from his history with naval intelligence. He and LBJ raced out to Los Alamos right after the Bluegill Triple Prime to be briefed in person. He says that JFK's desire to collaborate with the Soviets on UFOs, space exploration, and denuclearization were core parts of the impetus to assassinate him. Number 6, Malmgren discusses the Majestic, the group who took it upon themselves to protect the world. They tracked him from a young age, he says. This is the first time anyone of his caliber has mentioned this name, which is mostly associated with document links in the 80s and 90s that outline an elite of the elite military, intelligence, and scientific group governing the UFO issue. So this is talking about Majestic 12.
Yeah.
And then he goes on to say, Harald is a hero who saved the world, and more than once. There was more he held back that he took to his grave. He was an angel amongst devils, and his legacy should make all world leaders think twice, reflect, and lower the temperature on the world stage when contemplating brinksmanship. We barely scratched the surface of what he likely had to say, and he will have to we'll have to mull this over for years. But it's a quantum leap forward for disclosure and simply can't be ignored by members of the mainstream media. We are extremely grateful to Harald's incredible daughter, Pippa Malmgren, for co-hosting this discussion. She was special assistant to President Bush and a member of the National Economic Council and a very heterodox thinker in her own right. She teased the truth from her father and helped him come forward with this critically important insights. She set the whole discussion up, and we're forever indebted to her for entrusting us to help tell Harald's story. She said that Bissell told my dad, because you'll need to pass it along in the future at the right time. At 89, she knew her father in turn had to relay this vital information, this time on a broader stage as our multipolar nuclear world remains stuck in old paradigms. Australian intelligence analyst Geoffrey Cruikshank, who has gone deeper than anyone in the world on analyzing the bluegill triple prime test UFO incident, also conferred with Harald Malmgren to confirm the veracity of his foundational research. His research was essential to this piece. Rest in peace, Harald Bernard Malmgren, July 13th, 1935 to February 13th, 2025.
Crazy.
Yeah. And I've been following Pippa on X, and she's cool.
Yeah.
She's very into Bitcoin, and she seems to be of more of an Austrian bent.
Well, he is too.
Yeah.
He said that in the interview that
He
he goes and he debated, some other higher. I think it was LeMay or some others. No, it was who am I thinking of? The other kind of guy who's similar to him, Kissinger.
Kissinger, yeah.
He mentioned that he was more of the Austrian, bend
Right.
to Kissinger,
That
and
he
like
was more
Kissinger's
on,
like stormed out of the room or something at that point. That was like his story.
I don't remember if they were talking about economics during that part, but yeah.
Well, he had mentioned, he
Yeah.
brought it up at one point. He mentioned that he was of that bend and that there was
Right.
somebody was like, taken aback by it because he was kind of debating him about economics at some point.
Right.
But it was just like a side story he told during the interview.
So I wanted to share this 6-minute video. This is Jesse Michels' introduction to the Harald Malmgren episode. And you can call this a trailer for you guys to go watch the real thing.
Trailer.
And we'll leave a link to the full episode. So
Yeah.
Anyway, let's check this out.
We are asking tonight that an emergency meeting of the Security Council be convoked without delay.
I'm here with Dr. Harald Malmgren. You helped stop a couple of global crises, if we're going to get into that.
Listen, don't tell them what you think should happen. Ask them a lot of questions. Your job is to slow them down, reduce the heat in the room.
Do you think that UFOs played any sort of part in JFK's death?
Do I think so? Yes. I think it was probably the number one issue.
We choose to go to the moon.
JFK fully knew all about UFOs long before he became president. And suddenly I found myself in a community which was totally dominated by the Sicilian mafia. There had been some object that had appeared on the screen and joined and tagged along following the incoming missile. This appeared to knock down this device, they called it. I said, the tag along.
That's what you would call them, tag-alongs.
What else? I didn't react to it with shock. I thought, let's find out what that was.
Suddenly, JFK, LBJ, and their teams are going to Los Alamos. So what was so extraordinary that they all suddenly rush out there?
It was about the tag along. That's what they wanted to know about. They weren't all fascinated by the test.
It's not just the atomic connection. They're generically attracted to the tip of the spear as far as tech development.
That's at the heart of it.
Yeah.
Harald told Pippa on his deathbed and off-air that the CIA and Atomic Energy Commission got the very idea of shooting down UFOs with directed energy from an extraterrestrial being that survived the Roswell crash in 1947.
So you go out to Los Alamos, you get briefed, you meet Lawrence Keyes.
He reached for some stuff sitting on his desk. These are things that have come down.
So you're looking at like anomalous material.
Yeah.
Debris.
Yeah.
What did it feel like?
It felt weird because it didn't feel anything we know.
So you have this guy who's number 2 at the CIA. He set up Area 51. And he's briefing you on other world technologies.
He said, this is real. We have learned that some types of propulsion, for example, exist that we did never envisaged, never conceived.
you have uncovered collaboration between Nikola Tesla and Thomas Townsend Brown. What source did you get it from?
Foreign intelligence.
What else did Richard Bissell tell you?
He mentioned that in 1933, Magenta.
He did?
Yes.
Richard Bissell mentioned the 1933 Magenta crash?
Yes.
That's amazing.
The relationship needs to be uncovered between Angleton's father, Angleton, and the Knights of Malta.
Wow.
Because the Knights of Malta said there's long historical connection with the Vatican.
For 30 years, James Angleton was one of the top men in United States intelligence.
There are rumors that the Knights of Malta have something to do with the UFO story as well.
Well, what I'm saying is, yeah, they did, because Angleton was there.
You are now part of a network of people. It will be known that you've been blessed.
I had a channel directly with the Russians. Primakov looked for me, found me in the crowd, brought me over, and he introduced me to Putin. He said, this man is rising. He will soon be very important in Russia. You should know him.
You just brought this in. This is Paul Mellon's walking stick. Does it represent anything? It looks very unique.
He had a lot of power. I've felt all the way along these unexpected, interrelated events. There was a message of the madness somewhere.
How you almost serendipitously and miraculously wind up at Carl Compton's house holding a paint bucket, I don't quite know. Can't explain that.
Yeah, he said, you stunned me because you brought up, what is a photon? Why don't we understand it? Why haven't we had a picture of it? We have a picture of everything else, no photon. I said, I thought about it. It's something that operates in interaction with something else, probably another photon, and probably it's in pulses. And he said, no, it's not that thing. Your name went in all the important books of talent. Not only CIA, but all the majestic, all these guardians. They all took it on themselves to protect the world. If you ask me, did I have a purpose? Yes.
Pretty sweet.
The atomic whiz kid who saved the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Fascinating listen. It's so crazy. I mean, obviously there's some times where it's hard to, you got to put some subtitles on there. I wonder if they're pretty accurate though, so I think he must have gone back and done them.
They did a pretty good job.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I think they manually did all the subtitles in there.
Because they were pretty good.
Right.
Which is important because you want to know what he's saying.
Totally. Sweet. Well, why don't we take a break here?
All right.
And this is M.Born, and the song is called Never Die.
Never, never die.
Born every day, never dies the mission. Yeah. What? Yo. Yeah. He now experiencing the born, he abnormal from the north, formed from the eye of the storm, April 1984. Way around the world, nothing you've ever seen before. No amount of metaphors can explain my mental force. Verbal intercourse courses to my inner core, till it overpours out my pores, to the ceiling, to the floors. Murk a matador for instigating with a bore. Decorate your face for imitating my decor. Dedicated to the Lord, just in case my life is short. If I ever die, every other day I'm born. And I told them this before, but they just couldn't afford. What's the store, what's the cure? Nothing short of legendary when I step in through the door. When I leave you dead and buried like a cemetery floor. I live for every moment, every second that's in store. I get stronger every day for every pain that I've endured. It's been a long time coming, somebody open the door. Before I kick it all down, tell them to hit the floor. Tell them to hit record, cause I'm back for more. You're now experiencing the one and only Manila born. You're now experiencing the one and only Manila born.
Welcome back.
All right, here we go.
That's a cool track.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll start us off with a quote here, passage here from Meditations. Let there be freedom from perturbations with respect to the things which come from the external cause, and let there be justice in the things done by virtue of the internal cause. That is, let there be movement and action terminating in this in social acts, for this is according to your nature.
So he's talking about internal versus external causes for things.
Yeah. He's saying, like, let there be freedom from the, burden of things which are come from external causes, and let there be justice in the things done by virtue of the internal
that
cause.
Seems super in line with what we were talking about with the telepathy tapes. All right, hang on. I'm going to pause the recording real quick because I'm not seeing waveforms and it makes me paranoid that we're not recording, which we may be, but hang on. Okay. Phew. That worried me a little bit, but everything was there.
Okay. Was it just volume down or something? Or just the waveform?
It just wasn't rendering the waveform as we were recording.
Yeah.
Like you see on my screen now how it's showing the waveform of what I'm saying as I'm saying it. It wasn't doing that, and all those waveforms were blank. And I was like, does that mean we're not recording? Let's just check that out real quick.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, anyway, no, it seems in line with what we were talking about, like kind of what we talk about a lot on this podcast, that, there's a sort of internal knowledge, there's a sort of thing, there's a connecting to the outside world that you can only do through the inside, right? Versus constantly engaging in external information, so like sciences and your proper education and all that. Like you can learn a lot through that, but like there needs to be justice for the knowledge that you can attain from within. And I think that's a cool saying. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like
good quote.
Intuition, like it's kind of like that internal like system that kind of allows you to like make more sense of like the external choices, like maybe put into perspective like what it is that you are searching for, like what aligns the best with your goals, and if you follow your intuition, it kind of like steers you down the right path, So like acknowledging the external, demands, but like commanding over your internal voice so that you can like fully interpret its meaning and it's what it's trying to help you with,
Yeah. All right, so shall we hop back to Harald Malmgren?
Yes.
I'm just looking at the post here we just read, and we got some heavy hitters commenting on here. Red Panda Koalas, like
Chris Ramsey.
This is amazing. Great job. Linda Thompson, Chris Ramsey, Jack Sarfati. Yeah, some really interesting people.
Interstellar.
Cool. All right. So the next thing I prepared here is this little snippet from his interview where he talks about the Knights of Malta. So let's check this part out.
Relationship needs to be uncovered between Angleton's father, Angleton, and the Knights of Malta. The Knights of Malta had their long historical connection with the Vatican, and indeed have this special diplomatic status. It's a sovereign state. How did they get this sovereign state? The Vatican must have organized it.
They seem to have a lot of top-level business leaders and politicians involved in the Knights of Malta.
That's right. It's a secretive society. I mean, there are all these secret societies, but it's all connected with the Vatican.
But there are rumors that the Knights of Malta have something to do with the UFO story as well.
Well, what I'm saying is, yeah, they did, because Angleton was there. He was a member.
Wow. So he's involved in the Vatican, which makes it more likely that James Jesus Angleton probably had something to do with the retrieval of that UFO, the Magenta crash, which was kept at the Vatican.
Yeah. I'm speculating now, but no doubt in my mind about my
You're speculating, but there's so many connections.
The relation.
Yeah. So this
yeah,
is
they
really,
go on to like really dig into those two, which is good.
Jesse digs into the Knights of Malta and points out how, as he says they are a sovereign state, right? They are an organization, which is a sect or whatever within the Catholic Church, who are like ordained by the Pope, right? But they are a recognized international entity that can issue their own passports and whatnot.
Yeah.
They are a sovereign nation without land. They are the only sovereign that has no land, which is crazy to think about. Yeah. Like, oh yeah. Can you imagine like you're traveling between countries and you got a Knights of Malta passport? Like what?
That'd be pretty epic, huh?
It's nuts.
Just a shield.
So they're this big connected secret society, and then this one ties into the Magenta crash. So this is the one that apparently we really only learned about through not Jake Barber. Who's the other big recent whistleblower? Jesse had a big interview with him. He testified to Congress. Why can't am I blanking on his name?
David Grush.
Yeah.
There you go.
So it was David Grush's testimony through his whistleblowing where he talked about the 1933 Magenta crash. And then the next time we hear about it is through Harald Malmgren here. So this is
some confirmation
the idea of a UFO crash in Italy in 1933.
Right.
So this is pre-World War II Europe.
This is, Great Depression.
And he goes over it in the video, and he talks about how it may have even sort of it may have been a part of how Hitler and how like Nazi Germany and fascist Italy got together.
How Hitler escaped.
Well, before the escape, but it may have been like what kind of brought them together in coordination technologically over this UFO crash.
Right.
Which may have ultimately led to their sort of alliance during the war.
Yeah, especially since they weren't necessarily...
Or it may have helped influence that anyway.
Right.
But yeah, so essentially what Malmgren is talking about is that the Knights of Malta were able to work within Italy and with the Pope to export that crashed UFO from Italy and to the United States.
Okay. So there were some connections there that the United States had to get in on it.
Yeah. So very interesting. Because if that turns out to be true, then the Catholic Church is very intimately involved in this whole UFO secrecy as well.
Man, they've got such a long history that like it's hard to put
it's
it
not
past
surprising
them.
to me. Yeah,
it's hard to put it past that they have their own like secret division of scientists working for their end, for their,
Yeah, like they have their own
agenda.
observatory. Like the Catholic Church has been at the forefront of science for, they have a long history of being at the forefront of science. Not that they necessarily are anymore, but
maybe not.
They are very interested, and like I said, they got their own observatory. Like they got their own telescopes. Like they're pursuing science too.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I found this bit of the interview around the Knights of Malta, around the Magenta crash. I found that all really fascinating.
Yeah, I agree. The Magenta crash is a pretty interesting one.
Yeah. All right, the next piece I prepared is the part with him talking about Richard Bissell and also goes more into the Magenta crash. So let's check this out here.
Yeah, what else did Richard Bissell tell you?
He said this didn't start last week. This has been going on. He mentioned that in 1933 in Magenta.
He did?
Yes.
Richard Bissell mentioned the 1933 Magenta crash.
Yes.
That's amazing.
1933 was the first recovery in Europe, in Magenta, Italy.
I fully trust David Grush, but that's amazing that there's some corroboration from back then.
He mentioned it.
Yeah, what else did Richard Bissell tell you?
He said this didn't start last week.
Yeah. Was it like almost every clip of Jesse, he's like standing up and adjusting his pants?
Yeah. he fidgets a lot. That's funny that you pointed that out.
So Jesse's his text on this tweet here with the video attached, he says, the guy who literally created Area 51 and went on to become the number 2 at the CIA, Richard Bissell, briefed Harald Malmgren, a top presidential advisor, on other world technologies. He also told him about the 1933 Magenta UFO crash in Lombardy, Italy, that David Grush exposed in 2023.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's some corroboration between them. So
yeah,
Grush is hearing it from somebody who heard about it, or they know about it from a program within the government.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he knows it from.
And so it seems like there's something to it if Harald Malmgren is now independently corroborating that from a different angle now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it may ultimately tie to the same sources that David Grush is drawing from, but who knows? But in the case of Harald Malmgren, he's attributing it specifically to Richard Bissell, who told him about this, right?
He seems to me like a smoking man type.
Richard Bissell?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Malmgren?
Well, maybe Bissell too, but like Malmgren seems like, I don't know, he seems like a...
It's hard to. You're saying the cigarette smoking man from X-Files?
X-Files, yeah. Or like, I don't know.
So in a way, yes, but I would say no. Just in that the cigarette smoking man has like a negative connotation in my mind, right?
I know.
Like he's
I know.
he's like the main antagonist of the series, and I don't necessarily see Malmgren that way, right?
No,
like
it's.
He seems to have been more on the side of peace in those inner circles. Right.
His interconnectedness and his like ability to collect all these Q clearances and be bred into all these different programs. Like he seems like the type of guy that just has like something about him. And I actually prepared a clip too. I put it in there a little later that I wanted to play at the end of like our talks about him, where he gets into like the time travel part of things and stuff, and like his like what it like the series of events that led him to be from like a poor, maybe low middle class family, and like end up as a painter's, and like the whole like stretch of his career, and how like serendipitous it almost seems, like how it led to where it was, and like how like his curiosity at a young age like sparked some interest in some like high up people that had the right connections at the right times.
I find all that very interesting too, right? So Jesse, he dedicates a whole section of the video to
synchronicities,
to Harald Malmgren kind of telling his backstory and how he got to be.
Yeah.
Like, how do you go from a kid to a guy who's been a presidential advisor to multiple presidents and is connected to all these and has all these top secret clearances, and like what does that path look like, right? Mm-hmm. And when he tells his story, he tells a story of a little kid who apparently was super smart.
Yeah.
And somehow got the attention of the president of MIT.
Yeah.
Who comes down to talk to him at his father's property and interviews him and gets him talking about physics.
His dad was hired to paint the house of the professor or of the dean or whoever he was.
I think what started
and he was there to help during the summer.
Yeah.
And it was as if he was already being headhunted, and to like set up some sort of natural like meetup.
Right. I forget what was the sequence of events too with because he said he wrote in to the Atomic Energy Commission asking about for information on how nuclear physics works, and
that was weeks before.
Yeah,
it was only like 10 days before this.
Before his meeting with the.
It might have been longer. I'll have to confirm that later, but it was a significant amount of time before this, so like maybe months at the most.
Yeah,
but.
So essentially, he shows signs of being a really smart,
intuitive,
kid.
And smart. He said like, why haven't we seen a picture of a proton?
Right.
And
that was kind of like snipped up in the intro clip.
Right.
And so like when you hear him talking about physics like that in that clip, that's not him talking about his actual theory of physics. That's him recounting what he, as like a 8 or 10-year-old boy, was talking about as far as his understanding of physics after reading the material sent to him by the Atomic Energy Commission. And he was talking to the dean of MIT about nuclear physics, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's what was in those clips there, which was super fascinating, that like regardless of how accurate he is, the fact that he is thinking in terms like that as a little kid, it raised some eyebrows, right?
Yeah.
And so he gets pulled into MIT and taken away from his family young to pursue intellectual career.
Yeah.
And at some point, because he was starting to go down the road of like math and physics in MIT, I believe. And then at some point, he's talking to someone, and someone kind of steers him more towards politics and history.
Yeah.
And so his genius, instead of getting applied towards math and physics, got applied towards politics and world events and the complexity of like game theory and all this type of stuff. And so he ended up as this young political whiz kid that got brought in like as a freaking 27-year-old into the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is crazy.
I mean, you got to be pretty talented at communication and like reading a room and talking to people, and like you got to be pretty confident. And so like he probably must have portrayed all of those things as well as being intellectual,
right,
and being smart enough to hold himself in a conversation with grown men, making the world's decisions.
Right.
It's got to be pretty high up there. I mean, it's pretty fascinating to hear all the stories that he has to tell about being in those rooms.
Let's do the next one here. So this is a tweet by Clinton Desavu. I'll leave a link. He says, Dr. Nikola Tesla and Dr. Thomas Townsend Brown collaborated on gravity manipulation for classified craft per foreign intelligence relayed to Harald Malmgren, former advisor to 4 U.S. presidents. Most fascinating part of his interview for me. So here's a clip from the interview.
Also said on X that you have uncovered collaboration between Nikola Tesla and Thomas Townsend Brown.
Yeah, but I said to you informally, I did not get that from any U.S. source.
What source did you get it from?
Foreign intelligence.
Do you think it is a good source? Do you think it's real?
No reason. Why would somebody tell me that?
So do you know anything about the nature of that collaboration?
About anti-gravity motion.
Wow. And so Tesla stumbled on this stuff as well because they were both working with high voltage electricity.
Yeah, and I think I really would like to read Seska's workbooks, but they're all in the hands of, you can't have access.
Well, also,
pretty interesting. So, also in the interview, he says that he got actually a hold of some of Tesla's workbooks, and
there's some online now that were released or something recently.
He was looking forward to reading those. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Did Jesse set all that up in the tweet? But essentially, what happened with this interview is Jesse goes out to interview him. He gets to sit with Pippa, his daughter, and Harold, and have this nice big conversation about these topics. And then Harold has some sort of health event and they drive him to the hospital. And then he's in the hospital. Harold thinks he's going to recover. But he also thinks it's very important to continue talking to Jesse, and he has more he wants to say. And so Jesse calls him, and they have they continue the interview over the phone while Harold is in the hospital, and then he ends up passing within the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
So he ended up passing in February this year. So this is literally a deathbed confession. This is deathbed confession shit.
Yeah. You could tell he was probably ready to let it all out.
Yeah.
He seemed pretty open with telling the stories.
I just find it really inspiring that this, 89-year-old man is just trying to brush up on Tesla's research, and he's so intellectually active, and he's been tweeting up a storm all in the time leading up to his death and everything. He very active mind. He never slowed down. And so you can tell based on these interviews that this is not he's not really afflicted by neurological deficiencies. He's not Alzheimer's or anything like that. He doesn't have dementia. He's very sharp.
Thing.
Yeah, but his body finally gave out on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nikola Tesla working with Townsend Brown on anti-gravitic propulsion.
Motion, yeah. That's fascinating. I mean, I could see very advanced early stage understanding and ability.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that there is something to the fact that they've kept it so secret that it's they're hard pressed to find get the full amount than they would if they just released what they know to general population and allow the entirety of humanity to work on it and get the problem solved or figure out more of how it works and its origins.
Well, it makes me think if the first
open source it a bit.
Retrieval we got was 1933, and then that ends up back at the U.S., and then we get Roswell. And there was supposed to be another one right around the time of Roswell, Trinity or whatever,
yeah,
right?
Something
or
like that.
Near Trinity. And And so we got possibly multiple crashed UFOs. We've got the Germans working on some sort of anti-gravitic propulsion. We've got Thomas Townsend Brown and Nikola Tesla, and now a proposed link between them working together in secrecy. Mm-hmm. It seems like it's all connected. Like, it seems like between the UFOs and between the cutting edge human researchers that this is just a thing that was being looked into at the highest levels. And it seemed, and Malmgren talks about this, like that this was classified even above the nuclear secrets.
Right.
This was a much higher classification level.
It was almost like the nuclear stuff was the key to get to the next level, but we weren't ready for the next level.
Right.
Like, it unlocks the ability to see and interact with whoever it is that's at the next level, but you just aren't quite ready because it's such a huge, drastic change from what you're used to.
Yeah.
So, like, it takes time to get used to it, and then eventually you conquer it and you acclimate, and then there's another level. It's interesting.
All right, well, let's take our last break here, and then we'll come back and finish out the rest of these. This is Stevie Nader, and this is his acoustic version of his song, Take You On.
I've been caught in a storm before. You turned and said to me I was out past the shore, sailing towards a dream, and I promised myself that I never sail one step off my coast. Among the things to say, among the things to say, yeah, among the things to say, among the things to say. Say I would take you on, I take you on, I take you on. Say I would take you on, take you on, I take you on. Once I was lost in the woods, you slowly start to say, rain beat down where I stood, as I tried to find my way, and I swore to myself that I never sail one step off my path. Among the things to say, among the things to say, yeah, among the things to say, among the things to say. So I would take you on, I take you on, I take you on. So I would take you on, take you on, I take you on. So I would take you on, I take you on, I take you on. So I would take you on, take you on, take you on. You know I was on the shore and standing at the wooden exit door, 'cause it was you that I was waiting for. Yeah, that was me standing on the shore and knocking at the wooden exit door, 'cause it was you that I was waiting for. I would take you on. I 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 take you on. Take you on, I take you on, I take you on.
Welcome back.
Our card this week is the Empress. We actually got a major arcana this time.
Okay. Maybe we'll get some more description this time then.
So we have here a woman sitting in a white dress with like a flower print.
Yeah.
She's got like a gold collar. She's holding a golden wand with a gold orb at the end of it.
Mm-hmm. Sitting on like a red carpet blanket type thing with like a red pillow behind it. Looks like a wicker chair, if I had to guess.
Interesting, yeah. And then below there is a heart with like a circle and a cross. It looks like the symbol of the female.
Mm-hmm.
There's a forest in the background, wheat sheaths in the foreground. She's wearing laurels, and she seems to have like not necessarily a crown, but a bunch of stars poking out of her hair.
Yeah, it looks
1,
like a
2,
crown.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stars that I count there. Kind of looks like a crown, but it kind of looks just like laurels, and then her hair, and then like stars, like kind of poking into her hair, but it could be a crown. I'm not sure. So yeah, the Empress, according to tarot.com, the upright meaning of the Empress is a major arcana or trump card that portrays the energy of the Great Mother. She is nature around us, but also within us, the ever unfolding source of life-giving power. The Empress is often pictured as a pre-Christian goddess, as the one whom the high priestess is channeling down to the earth for the rest of us. In medieval Europe, the Empress card was painted to represent whatever queen currently ruled the land, probably to satisfy the inquisitors. But the scholars of the Renaissance and beyond had no doubt of her true identity. She could not be fully revealed on tarot cards as the woman clothed with the sun until after the French Revolution. This supreme archetype of femininity also symbolizes fertility. It is the Empress who provides us with nourishment and security. She is also sometimes seen as delighting us with flowers and fruit. A potentially terrifying aspect of this archetype manifests itself over whenever karmic mood swings wipe out our plans. Like a storm that has come upon us, whatever happens, the Empress is the source of our embodiment and of natural law. She might even be called the Great Recycler.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Great Recycler.
I thought it was interesting the part where she is around us, but also within us.
Yeah.
Especially like that lines up with our Marcus Aurelius reading for the week, and the whole talk with like animal communication,
telepathy and stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, man, what a world that would be. Well, yeah, it's a good card.
Yeah,
seemed pretty fitting.
I'm gonna also read it.
Intention.
It has some readings here for if you draw it reversed, or if you draw it in a vice position or a love position, a career position, or yes or no.
Yeah.
I I think we should read some of these every time too, just to kind of get a feel for the cards and what they can mean.
Yeah, last time we reread the money and career version of the card we pulled last year, the Four of Swords, I think it was.
So I drew this facing upright, but let's read the reverse meaning here. It says, because the Empress represents nature, when she is reversed, she has tremendous natural power to correct her heedless children. Volcanoes, tsunami, hurricanes, and the like symbolize violent emotions triggered by ignorant or foolish humans. If you feel like being corrective, you are probably justified, but set limits on how punitive you allow yourself to be. You don't want to go too far and destroy all you have taken so much delight in. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the sort of archetype of Demeter in Greek mythology as the mother of Persephone, who gets whisked away down into the underworld. Mm-hmm. And she gets super mad and basically brings like a permanent winter onto Greece as Persephone
Elsa.
is missing.
It's Elsa.
Right. Because, Demeter being like the goddess of like the harvest and whatnot. So when she's spurned, and this is like the Greek myth for like the seasons, is that Persephone, when she spends half of the year in the underworld with Hades, and then she spends half the year with her mother up in Olympus. Mm-hmm. And it's only when she's with her mother in Olympus that Demeter grants humans this nice weather.
Interesting.
And it's sort of the metaphoric explanation for the seasons.
I could see that, yeah.
So
that sounds a lot like it.
In the advice position, the Empress advises you to trust in the good sense you have shown up to this point. Recognize your good intentions in carrying out responsibilities as a compassionate human. You are capable of demonstrating the finest aspects of your personality. Demonstrate this through caring actions, a forgiving and generous attitude, and wise understanding of others' needs and struggles. Bring a healing influence to the current situation and take full credit for the supportive part you play.
Wow. Okay.
In a love position, the Empress symbolizes harmony, comfort, creativity, and wisdom. This great mother beckons us with her life-giving support. She is the abundant matrix from which we draw vital life and out of which we individuate. She exemplifies health and natural joy in the body, the healing arts, music, and all things good, true and beautiful. We learn our highest ideals from her. The Empress in this position indicates that you personify something generous, warm, and nurturing. If you can wholeheartedly express and embrace these life-giving impulses, then you will very likely draw your potential soulmate or desired partner to your side. In a career position, a charismatic individual in the work environment may be attracting people like bees to a flower. This kind of person helps us realize the importance of being inspired by high ideals. Naturally, this is a valuable person to have around. Such a person provides support and acceptance for everyone to be nurtured by. If you find yourself in resistance to this character, ask yourself why. Judging by the fruits of their work, this person may be worth your admiration. Emulation is appropriate response to the new and upbeat influence of the person you are involved with, which is bringing into your life. Empress in a yes or no card reading. It's a card of comfort and creativity. If you're looking for a simple yes or no guidance and receive the Empress, the answer is yes. Cultivate the attitude of abundance and prioritize what makes you happy. Very cool. So, yeah, what do you guys think of that card being drawn this week?
Yeah, what's your intuition on that being drawn at this point? That's good.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going with Harald Malmgren.
Okay.
So this is posted by UAP1 on X, and he says, Jesse Michels, he's quoting Jesse Michels. Harald Malmgren told Pippa on his deathbed that the CIA and the Atomic Energy Commission got the very idea about shooting down UFOs with directed energy weapons from an extraterrestrial being that survived the Roswell crash in 1947. I wonder if the Roswell EBE, that's extraterrestrial biological entity, openly told its captors this off-world trade secret, or if some kind of strong-arming was used. Given human history, I think I know my answer.
Yeah.
I would think maybe it could be done through inference of like asking about how they work, right? So like if someone's interviewing this entity about how their craft work, that could be deduced from that. If you know how it works, you can know how to take it down. So it may not necessarily be that they tortured a alien into saying how to shoot down UFOs, but it may
They
more
just gain the
be
information based on like answers given during an interview. Yeah.
But I would not put it past these types to go there.
Yeah.
So who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's check this little clip here.
Did Richard Bissell know what was going on all along? That the bluegill test was actually always intended to be a directed energy-based UFO shootdown? Well, tellingly, Harald told Pippa on his deathbed and off-air that the CIA and Atomic Energy Commission got the very idea of shooting down UFOs with directed energy from an extraterrestrial being that survived the Roswell crash in 1947. This being was apparently the sole survivor of that crash. Harald even told Pippa that later in his career, he saw the video of this creature being interviewed.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, back then it would have been on like a 9mm film thing rig, and that could account for like some of these like the leaked footage we saw.
Yeah.
That may have been from Majestic 12. Remember, it was labeled Majestic 12, those interviews with the alien.
Right.
What if those are actually real?
Dude.
And we saw them and they were leaked, but they were just like played off as like super, like they were literally on the page of somebody who does CGI fakes.
Right.
But it was like 9 to 14 years ago that they were put out there, and there's like only been like 10,000 views on each of them because it's like so.
Some of the micro motion on those fakes was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to paint a little backstory, or I want to fill in some of the info here that we haven't gotten to fill in because we're not watching the whole 4-hour video here.
Yeah.
In this bluegill triple prime, so Jesse says that. Or Malmgren says that the bluegill triple prime was one test within a larger operation code name, which I forget the name of. So there was like a series, I think it was like 30 something tests that happened as part of those tests in the Marshall Islands. And so part of the test was detonating nukes in the atmosphere. Part of the test was actually shooting down missiles. So what they were trying to come up with was a sort of missile defense system against incoming nuclear weapons, right?
Right.
And so what
Shooting
they wanted to
them down
know
in the air.
is can you send up your own nuclear explosion in the atmosphere that the incoming nuke is flying through, and will that destroy the nuke that's incoming? And a number of those tests were unsuccessful. But some of them were successful, and I forget if the bluegill triple prime was one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But what they ended up finding out is that that if you use a sort of X-ray beam, that those X-rays can infiltrate the re-entry vehicle and cause it to destroy itself from within. And so some of the tests were actually successful. And it was in the process of these tests. So depending on how you see it, you could see apparently a number of these tests in the series had these tag-alongs, because they would film these and they would see the reentry vehicles and the missile, and they would, send up their explosion. But they would see these tag-alongs coming along with the reentry vehicles.
Yeah.
And that's what they called them, but they were basically these UFOs flying along with the reentry vehicles. And we actually played one of those in a recent episode.
I think our last one, right?
Was it the last one? Yeah. So. Either way, I'll link that video again. Now, in some of these, what you can actually see, I think it happened a couple times, is that when the explosion goes off, not only is it successful in taking down the reentry vehicle, but the tag-along falls from the sky.
With it. Yeah.
And so it was specifically one of the downed UFOs, one of the downed tag-along UFOs, part of the material from that is what Malmgren is claiming that Bissell handed to him for him to handle.
Yeah.
And Malmgren reports that the material gave him it affected him. He felt that it implanted in him some sort of knowledge, and that he immediately forgot about, but he feels that it had an effect on the direction of his life.
And when was it that he said he handled this? Right after the tests?
I forget. No, it wasn't right after the test. I think it was later on.
Okay.
Yeah, because Malmgren would have been a boy at the time, I think.
Of the tests?
Yeah. All right, let's go on to the next one here. Malmgren says he was officially tracked and monitored at a very young age by MJ-12, Majestic 12, and the CIA of being exceptional talent. That alone opens up a can of worms. This is all within the first 5 minutes of the interview. This is a must-watch interview. So here's a clip of this. No, this is actually the full 6-minute preview. So
I think we watched this already, right?
And we already kind of talked about that aspect of things, about him being watched as a child and sort of groomed for these positions.
Basically the same clip, probably, I think.
Yeah. Well, this is that same 6-minute trailer, so we'll skip that. This is the clip that you prepared, so let's check this out. Do you want to introduce this?
So basically, this is at the end when Jesse Michels calls him. He wants to try one more time to get his take on the aspect of time travel and all of this, and had Harald, he'll say all this, but had Harald considered time travel as being a possible effect of his life and all of his career and stuff. And so we'll play this.
Time travel, because gravity is linked with time and general relativity. We talked about how Townsend Brown really believed he had found a missing puzzle piece for time travel. I then asked Harald about the existence of a coordinated group trying to deliberately affect timelines. A very talkative Harald Malmgren went noticeably silent.
Well, Harald, I want you to take care of yourself, man. I know we've been talking for an hour now, and I wish I could be with you in person, and I miss you, man, and I want you to just get better. I really hope you rest up, and you have my number, so you can call me at any time if you ever need help with anything. And
I'm gonna be out of here pretty soon.
Okay.
My health is good.
Good.
I have to get people out of my way.
Under the pseudonym Chase Brandon, a CIA agent turned Hollywood liaison wrote a book in 2012. The book discusses a celestial object that telepathically communicates with its recipients. The object also relays critical information about future timelines. a secret committee is brought together by synchronicities and extraterrestrial beings that seem to know about every one of its members. The committee are an elite group of military and scientific thinkers designated to deal with the issue of non-human intelligence. The main character of the book is a mathematical whiz kid named Chalmers, who is plucked by the head honchos of the Office of Strategic Services, and then this special committee. He helps the committee navigate the future of humanity and manage complex timelines. He is also taken in and out of a liminal, timeless dominion where he is taught important things by otherworldly beings that go to determine his purpose in life. The common trope in the book is that Chalmers had a purpose. It was a deeply installed, driven purpose, even if it was subconscious. The first page of this book quotes Francis Bacon. Truth is so hard to tell, it sometimes needs fiction to make it plausible.
I love that quote.
Me too. So good.
When Harold called me again prior to his passing, I thought I'd bring up time travel one last time.
Harold, do you think your life is connected with time travel in any way?
I've thought about this many, many times, and my answer is yes. Nothing else explains. When I go into that MIT professor, I didn't have the slightest inhibition. I was talking as if I knew something. I don't know why I know it. I know it. And in fact, what I did say was breaking through what was no knowledge at that time. So, if you ask me, did I have a purpose? Yes. Now,
Dude, that's such a great segue for after that, like, introduction of the book. Like, that's like written about this like fictional character.
Yeah.
But it's really based on
Harold Malmgren too.
Harold Malmgren's life and legacy and his connection and ability to, be at the center of these things.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I want to read that too when you're done.
What was that quote?
Just before that.
Yeah, I think it was before this.
There.
The truth is so hard to tell, it sometimes needs fiction to make it plausible. You know what's interesting about this is because earlier in the interview, do you remember the part where they were also talking about the book, The Three-Body Problem?
Mm-hmm.
And Malmgren was talking about in certain circles, it was like required reading.
Yeah.
As a sort of
within like certain defense departments and like yeah
which is super interesting because if you haven't read that book, it's about humans making contact with an alien species who then begins screwing with our ability to do science and our ability to detect truth as they are on their way to our planet. Which is very interesting.
Yeah, which is interesting, especially if you take into account all the things that are happening.
Yeah,
in the world.
If you don't want to read the book because it's long and hard, I would recommend the Netflix series. It's on the Three-Body Problem.
Yeah, I don't have Netflix, so I need to get in. I need to figure out a way to watch that.
Yeah, well,
I guess you just pay for it.
I can add it to my personal Plex for you and get you an invite. All right, so the other thing I wanted to talk about before we close this out is, did you see this? That Harold Malmgren's Wikipedia entry has been, it was nominated for deletion right after the release of this episode of Jesse Michels.
No way.
So check out this clip from his Wikipedia entry. Before it was manipulated, it says, He was an American scholar, diplomat, and international negotiator. He was a senior aide to U.S. Presidents John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford, and to U.S. Senators Abraham A. Ribicoff and Russell B. Long, United States Senate Committee on Finance. He acted as an advisor, blah, blah, blah. Okay?
Yeah.
This is all the stuff that was removed from his Wikipedia entry.
Jeez. It's like pages of stuff.
Pages of stuff. And afterwards, it essentially, what's left on his Wikipedia essentially portrays him as just like a lobbyist.
Yeah. I did search him recently. And I noticed that it wasn't what I read before or what you just read.
Mm-hmm.
It was all the, like, he's a lobbyist and, like, big money types, like, just like a you know, whatever.
And the dude who deleted Christopher Mellon's and manipulated Harald Malmgren's Wikipedia entries received a Wikipedia award, the Surreal Barnstard. I'm awarding this to you. This apparently this is one like users can award to each other, but it says, I'm awarding you the Surreal Barnstar in recognition of your dedicated efforts in tackling difficult and controversial topics. Your commitment to maintaining balance and thoroughness, even when faced with heavy scrutiny, shows a unique resilience and adds valuable depth to discussions. Awarded after a flurry of emails to VRT about specific AFDs, blah, blah, blah. All right. So
that's weird.
We're seeing history being rewritten. So Jimmy Wales, one of the founders are apparently, he's involved in the running of Wikipedia, I believe. He had a bunch to say about this at some point, but I didn't snip that. But he was like, this will work itself out or whatever.
How do you reverse this and stop paid skeptic operatives so Wikipedia can maintain its quality?
Yeah, let me read this. This is Jesse Michels' post about this. He says, Harald Malmgren's Wikipedia page was successfully altered yesterday. He is now called an American writer and lobbyist, no longer a top presidential aide and diplomat who avoided World War III. Among other incredible accomplishments, just some random guy representing Japanese business interests in the U.S. and soliciting corporate clients using government connections. This is pure bullshit and obviously a reaction to our video, not some desire to get things right. The timing is all you need to know. At Jimmy Wales, how do we reverse this and stop paid skeptic operatives so Wikipedia can maintain its quality? This man served his country for decades and just passed away. He can't defend himself. It's completely shameless.
Yeah, that is crazy that they would just go and try to alter everything now that he's getting some sort of notoriety.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably paid for or at least asked for. Or now that we have all the Twitter files and all the Facebook,
just goes to show
admission from government
Wikipedia,
interaction,
right, is not flawless and not even close.
Absolutely not. Yeah,
and people like this can go in and like have a big impact on what people think is actually the truth just by editing a Wikipedia entry.
Yep.
Because for a lot of people, Wikipedia is a very reliable source.
Yeah, so just stay frosty.
Stay vigilant. Stay frosty, for sure.
All right, y'all. Appreciate y'all listening in. If you guys want to check us out, our website is dualitycheck.net. You guys can reach out to us there or hit us up on a variety of platforms, YouTube, Rumble, if you guys want the video content. And you guys can hit us up on Overcast and Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those good things. And subscribe, and comment on any of those platforms.
Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts would really help. And you can also review and comment on episodes on Spotify, and we do see all that.
Yep, and we'll get to all that as quick as possible. Sometimes we may not look at one, we'll look at another. Yeah, keep hitting us up. We want to know what you guys think on these topics, man. Very good to hear from you. And Greg, appreciate you as always.
For sure. And yeah, we will see you guys next week with another
episode 70. Let's go.
Episode 70. Dang, we're almost there.
All right, y'all. Have a good one. Later.
Adios.